Picture this, a packed boxing gym in Vegas, cameras rolling, a cocky heavyweight champion trash-talking a 65-year-old martial arts legend, calling him washed up and fake. The crowd is laughing. The boxer is flexing. And Chuck Norris? He's just standing there, calm as glass. But in 30 seconds, that same champion will be flat on his back, staring at the ceiling lights, wondering what dimension he just got sent to. This is the story of the most shocking knockout that was never supposed to happen. And trust me, the buildup is just as insane as the ending. Here's how this whole mess started. Tommy the Tornado Rodriguez, undefeated heavyweight champion, 34-0 record, known for his devastating right hook and even more devastating ego. This guy had been running his mouth on every podcast, every interview, claiming modern boxers would destroy the old-school martial artists. These karate guys are all flash, no substance, Rodriguez had been saying for months. Put me in a ring with any of these so-called legends, and I'll show you what real fighting looks like. But here's where it gets interesting. Rodriguez wasn't just talking trash in general. He was specifically targeting Chuck Norris, calling him out by name on social media, mocking his movies, claiming his martial arts were choreographed nonsense for cameras. The breaking point came during a live radio interview when Rodriguez said, and I quote, "Chuck Norris, that old man couldn't knock out a paper bag. I'd put him down in under 10 seconds. These internet memes got people thinking he's some kind of god. I'll show the world he's just another washed-up actor." Now, Chuck Norris had been ignoring this for weeks. The man's a professional, a gentleman. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. But when a local Vegas promoter offered to set up a friendly exhibition match for charity, with all proceeds going to military veterans, Chuck surprised everyone. He accepted. The announcement broke the internet. Chuck versus Rodriguez started trending worldwide within hours. Boxing forums exploded. Martial arts communities went wild. Even people who'd never watched a fight in their lives suddenly had opinions. Rodriguez, of course, saw this as his moment to shine. He ramped up the trash talk to 11. Press conferences became roast sessions. "I respect what Chuck did for movies," he'd say with a smirk. "But this isn't Hollywood. This is real fighting, and I'm about to give him a reality check he'll never forget." The media ate it up. Sports commentators debated whether this was brave or foolish. Vegas bookmakers made Rodriguez a 20-1 favorite. The fight was being billed as experience versus youth, Hollywood versus reality, legend versus champion. But here's what nobody was talking about. Chuck Norris hadn't just been making movies for the past 40 years. The man had been quietly training, evolving, perfecting his craft. While Rodriguez was busy running his mouth, Chuck was in his dojo, moving like water, striking like lightning. 3 weeks before the fight, something interesting happened. A video surfaced online, security footage from Chuck's private training session. Just 30 seconds of him working the heavy bag. But those 30 seconds were different. The bag wasn't just moving, it was dancing. Each strike landed with surgical precision, the kind of power that doesn't announce itself, just delivers. Rodriguez saw the video and laughed it off during his next interview. "Hitting a bag that can't hit back? My grandmother could look good doing that. Wait until he faces someone who fights back." Big mistake. Fight night. The MGM Grand was electric. 15,000 people packed into the arena, another million watching the pay-per-view stream. You could feel the energy crackling through the air like lightning before a storm. Rodriguez entered first, all swagger and showboating. His entrance took 10 minutes. Pyrotechnics, dancers, a custom song about destroying legends. He shadowboxed for the crowd, each punch accompanied by roars of approval. This was his house, his crowd, his moment. Then Chuck Norris walked out. No fanfare, no flash. Just a man in simple shorts and gloves, walking to the ring like he was going to the grocery store. But something was different about the atmosphere when he appeared. The crowd noise didn't get louder. It got more intense, like the difference between yelling and whispering a threat. Rodriguez was bouncing around the ring, throwing combinations at the air, playing to every camera. "You ready for this, old man?" he called out, loud enough for the microphones to catch. "I hope you got good insurance." Chuck just stood in his corner, stretching quietly. His coach whispered something in his ear. Chuck nodded once. That was it. The referee called them to center ring for instructions. Standard stuff. Protect yourself at all times. Break when I say break. Touch gloves if you want to. Rodriguez stuck his glove out aggressively. Nothing personal, Chuck. Just business. Chuck touched gloves briefly, looked Rodriguez directly in the eyes, and said something that the lip readers in the audience would later transcribe. You should have stayed quiet. Round 1 begins. Rodriguez comes out like a man possessed, throwing everything he's got. Jabs, hooks, combinations that had destroyed 34 previous opponents. The crowd is on its feet. This is what they paid to see. Youth and aggression taking it to the aging legend. But something's wrong. Chuck isn't where Rodriguez expects him to be. Every punch that should connect hits air. It's not obvious dodging. Chuck seems to just not be there when the punches arrive. 30 seconds in, Rodriguez is already breathing harder than he should be. His trainer is yelling instructions, but they're not landing. How do you hit a target that moves like smoke? Stand still and fight, Rodriguez shouts between combinations. Chuck says nothing, just keeps moving, studying, calculating. 1 minute in, Rodriguez lands his first clean shot, a jab that catches Chuck on the shoulder. The crowd erupts. Rodriguez raises his gloves in premature celebration. That's when Chuck smiled. Something changed in that moment. Chuck stopped being defensive and started being something else. He began to move forward, and suddenly Rodriguez found himself backing up without meaning to. What's wrong, champion? Chuck asked, his voice calm and clear despite the chaos. I thought you were going to knock me out in 10 seconds. Rodriguez threw a massive right hook, the same punch that had ended his last 5 fights. Chuck leaned back exactly far enough for it to miss by millimeters, then stepped forward. That's your power shot? Chuck asked conversationally, like they were discussing the weather. Let me show you mine. It happened so fast that even the slow-motion cameras almost missed it. Chuck's right hand moved in what looked like a gentle, almost casual motion, like he was brushing dust off Rodriguez's chin. But the sound that followed, the crack of impact, echoed through the arena like a gunshot. Rodriguez's eyes rolled back, his knees buckled. For a moment that lasted forever, he stood there like a tree deciding which way to fall. Then gravity remembered how to work. Rodriguez hit the canvas like a sack of concrete. Not the dramatic slow-motion fall you see in movies, just a sudden, complete shutdown of all motor functions. His mouthpiece flew in one direction, his confidence in another. The referee didn't even need to count. One look at Rodriguez's vacant stare, and he was waving his arms, calling for the medical team. The crowd was dead silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then the arena exploded. Chucknorris stood over his fallen opponent. Not celebrating, not gloating. He knelt down next to Rodriguez, checked his pulse, made sure he was breathing okay. When the medical team arrived, Chuck helped them position Rodriguez properly. He's going to be fine, Chuck told the doctor quietly. Just needs a few minutes to remember where he parked. Sure enough, 2 minutes later, Rodriguez's eyes focused. He looked up at Chuck with the confusion of a man who'd just been introduced to physics in the most personal way possible. What happened? Rodriguez mumbled. Chuck helped him sit up. You learned something new tonight, son. That's always a good thing. The post-fight interview was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. While Rodriguez was being checked for concussion symptoms, Chuck faced the media with his typical calm demeanor. Chuck, that was incredible, the interviewer began. What do you want to say to all the people who doubted you could still compete at this level? Chuck thought for a moment. I don't have anything to prove to anyone. Tommy's a good fighter, a strong young man. He just needed to learn that real strength isn't about how loud you talk. It's about how quietly you can deliver when it matters. Any words for Rodriguez? He's going to be a better fighter after tonight. Sometimes the best lessons come from the hardest teachers. I hope he takes this experience and grows from it. Meanwhile, Rodriguez was doing his own interview, looking like a man who'd just discovered fire. I don't even know what hit me, he admitted. I threw my best shot, and it was like trying to punch a ghost. Then he touched my chin, and suddenly I was looking at the ceiling. I've got nothing but respect for that man. The humility was complete. The trash talk was over. In the weeks that followed, something beautiful happened. Rodriguez became one of Chuck's biggest advocates. He started training in martial arts, incorporating Chuck's philosophy of quiet confidence into his boxing career. "I thought I knew what fighting was," Rodriguez said during a later interview. "Turns out I was just making noise. Chuck Norris showed me the difference between being a fighter and being a warrior." The knockout video went viral, obviously, but not in the way you'd expect. Instead of mocking Rodriguez, people praised both fighters. Chuck for his incredible skill and humility, Rodriguez for his grace in defeat and willingness to learn. The real story isn't about a young boxer getting knocked out. It's about what happens when authentic skill meets manufactured hype. Rodriguez learned that real confidence doesn't need to announce itself. It just is. Chuck Norris proved once again that legends aren't made by talking. They're made by walking the walk when it matters most. At 65 years old, he reminded the world why some names become legendary and others just become forgotten. "Age is just a number," Chuck said in his final interview about the fight. "Wisdom, skill, and character, those are timeless. Tommy learned that the hard way, but he learned it. That makes the whole night worthwhile. So the next time someone tells you that the old ways don't work anymore, remember this story. Remember that true mastery doesn't fade with age. It just gets more refined, more precise, more devastating when it needs to be." Chuck Norris didn't just knock out a heavyweight champion that night. He knocked out the idea that youth automatically beats experience, that volume beats substance, that talking tough is the same as being tough. Because when a real legend steps into the ring, all the trash talk in the world can't save you from reality. And reality, as Tommy Rodriguez learned, hits a lot harder than any punch. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous, and sometimes they prove it in under 10 seconds.